impersonal. He needed to spend more time with the woman he was attracted to, really get to know her. But when did a sailor ever get to spend more than a few days in any one port? If he settled in London, he'd have all the time he needed to find that one special woman meant just for him. She was out there. He knew she was. He just needed to be in one place long enough to find her and woo her. Boyd looked out over the busy docks and the town of Bridgeport beyond and felt a pang of sadness. This might be the last time he was ever here. The big house the Andersons had grown up in had been empty since Georgina had left. There were friends and neighbors here whom he'd known all his life and would miss. But family was where the heart was, and Georgina had been the heart of his family since their parents had died. Boyd's captain, Tyrus Reynolds, joined him at the rail. Boyd didn't captain his own ship and never had. His family thought he was too free-spirited to want to take on that sort of command, even though he'd always sailed with his ship. He'd never disabused them of that notion, even though it was not correct.
"If you weren't in such a hurry to get to England," Tyrus grumbled, "we could have at least detoured a bit to one of the southern ports for a cargo of cotton instead of taking on passengers here."
Boyd grinned down at the older man he called a friend as well as captain. Boyd was a bit under 6 feet himself, but Tyrus was much shorter and had a crusty temperament.
"You don't consider a load of passengers a good cargo?"
Boyd asked. Tyrus snorted.
"When I have to entertain them for the whole trip and deal with their complaints, rum and cotton don't complain."
"But we're looking at about the same profit, if all the cabins are filled, and it's certainly not the first time we've taken on passengers. You're just out of sorts because you're remembering the last time when that hefty grandmother kept trying to seduce you." Tyrus groaned.
Don't remind me. I never mentioned it to you, but she actually snuck into my cabin and right into my bed. Scared the bejesus out of me, waking up to her snuggled to my side."
Boyd burst out laughing. "I hope you didn't take advantage of her." Tyrus's snort was much more meaningful this time. Boyd glanced away so Tyrus wouldn't see his grin. Damn, he wished he could have seen that, but just imagining it made him want to laugh again. Boyd's eyes, caught by the bright lavender and pink colors on the dock below, stayed on the tall woman wearing a lavender skirt and a pink blouse. The sleeves of the blouse were rolled up. It was midsummer and definitely a warm day. With the back of one arm, the woman wiped her brow, knocking her bonnet off her head. She had black hair, but he'd already seen that in the long braid she wore down her back. He wished she would turn around instead of just giving him a view of her back. Not that that side of her was unattractive. The bonnet merely fell to her shoulder, caught by the bonnet ribbons tied around her neck, but she didn't bother to lift it back to her head, because she was engrossed in what she was doing. He was amazed. She was feeding the seagulls, and every other bird in the area that noticed her tossing out food from the basket on her arm. There was nothing wrong with that. He fed birds and other wild animals himself on occasion. But she was doing it on a busy dock. A flock of birds was surrounding her, and more kept coming. She was becoming a nuisance. People were having to walk far around her flock. Some stopped briefly to watch her, fortunately, without blocking his own view. One dockhand tried to shoo off the birds to clear his path, but they merely moved closer to their benefactor. The dockhand said something to her. She turned and smiled at him, and Boyd was dumbstruck by the front view of her. She wasn't just pretty. To his eyes, she was exquisite. Young, probably in her early 20s, skin lightly tanned from the summer sun, black bangs curved toward her temples, a narrow, beautiful face, and dimples when she smiled. And she was buxom. God, curves like that usually only showed up in his more pleasant dreams.
"Close your mouth, lad, you're drooling,"
Tyrus said.
"We may have to delay our departure."
Tyrus had followed his gaze.
"The devil we will, and besides, I do believe she's one of our passengers. At least